Hey everyone, welcome back to the final video of December and the final video of 2023. This has been a great month for the channel and just overall a great year. Thank you to everyone who chose to like, subscribe, watch the live streams, leave comments, become members, all that fun stuff. So enjoy this final video as we go through Pokemon White version 2 challenge mode and see which of the three Unova starters can beat the game the fastest. Serperior, Emboar, and Samurott. Samurott being my favorite. We're just going to head straight into the video. We'll start off with Serperior as we go through up to the first gym leader Charon, and then we can go through Emboar and Samurott, and then during that time we can talk about the movesets and stuff. So let's get straight into the run, shall we? As usual, the time starts after selecting my save file, which I make after I save the game immediately after receiving my starter, and then I can put it in PK Hex to give it the ability of choice, nature, stuff like that. In Generation 5, we are given the choice of hidden abilities, which are abilities that are basically almost impossible to get in Gen 5 Vanilla with a few exceptions, mostly since the Dream World is shut down. But in modern Pokemon games with ability patches and ability capsules, they're not as hard to get, but they can still be a challenge. However, for Serperior today, even though its hidden ability Contrary, which reverses the stat gains and stat decreases, like if I get hit with Growl, it'll raise my attack, but if I use Nasty Plot, it lowers my special attack. While that is useful and competitive, it's not going to be too useful in a solo run, because the main move Serperior likes to use with this move is Leaf Storm to raise its special attack by 2 stages. It doesn't get that move until really late, and if we take a look at the level up moveset, it doesn't get that move until level 62, so we would hardly take advantage of it, so I just stuck with Overgrow. Also, all starters are in the medium slow level up group, just thought I'd mention that really quick. Anyway, we start off with the moves Leer, Tackle, Vine Whip, and Wrap. To be honest, of all the Unova starters, Serperior probably has the worst level up set. After this, we get Growth at level 13, which is pretty good. And here's another thing, if I went with Contrary, Growth would lower my special attack and attack. So yeah, no. And then Leaf Tornado, Leech Seed, Mega Drain, Slam, Leaf Blade, Coil, Giga Drain, Ring Out, Gastro Acid, and Leaf Storm. And some notable TMs we get are Calm Mind and Hidden Power, which are both locked away in the PWT or the Battle Subway, so we can just forget about those. And then after that, we can also expect to get Solar Beam, Return, Reflect, Aerial Ace, Facade, Rest, Energy Ball, Giga Impact, Swords Dance, which is also locked in the Subway, Dragon Tail, and Grass Knot. So really, we don't get much to work with, and that's honestly pretty disappointing. But now let's take a look at the stats. We have 75 HP, attack and special attack, 95 defense and special defense, and 113 speed. So we're basically the fastest of the three, and we're kind of defensive. But in terms of solo runs, defensive Pokemon really don't do as good as Pokemon that can pack a punch because defensive Pokemon often need to level up higher in order to achieve the same results. And for all of our contenders, I went with a male starter. If you notice my other videos, I tend to go for female Pokemon when I can, like obviously Fire Red and Leaf Green, because it unlocks the ability to use Attract as a decent strategy. In White version 2 challenge mode, however, you could really go either way because there are a lot of difficult male trainers, a lot of difficult female trainers, but the most difficult female trainer is Iris the champion. All of her Pokemon are female except for her Archeops, which is a male. So if I want to use the Attract strategy on it, I would have to play with a male Pokemon. But that does mean, like, I could use the Attract strat on Skyla, but I couldn't use it on, like, Drayden, for example. So I have to really think which gender to use. And if you've been paying attention in the background, I try to fight most of the optional trainers when I can, because Generation 5 has the updated experience formula, where if you're a higher level compared to the opponent, you will receive less experience. So it's best to fight trainers when you're as close to a level to them as possible. Bonus points if they're higher level than you, but that can make them harder to defeat. And in terms of HM users, I can catch a Patrat or a Purloin on the first route for cut, but then for my next HM user, I need to look for a Psyduck in the Flockacy Ranch. I've actually updated since then. I now have a much better way of getting HM users in this game because the Psyduck is only a 15% spawn chance in this game, And I've had runs where I've lost 6 minutes to looking for a Psyduck. My new solution for HM users is I catch the Patrat or the Purloin for cut. I will catch the Psyduck in the Flockacy Ranch if I find it. If not, then that's fine. For a Surf user, it's really hard to find a Surf user without the ability to actually use Surf or use a fishing rod, but funnily enough, Audino learns Surf. I learned that last minute. I don't use it in any of these runs, but if I don't find a Psyduck, I can catch an Audino in Rustling Grass, which in the early routes is a 100% spawn. And then for Strength, I can just go in the Relic Passage by the PWT and just catch a Boldore or Eradicate or something in there. Because in the Relic Passage, pretty much anything in there except for the Woobat can learn Strength, so I have a lot of different options. And then for Fly, I actually catch my Fly user in Verbank City, in the Verbank Complex, because the grass there has a 30% chance of P-Dove, while the route before it only has a 10% chance. It's actually 10% in the winter, 25% in the other seasons, but the Verbank Complex is a flat 30% all year. So that's where I now get the Fly user, but like I said before, I don't do that in these runs because this was before I figured that out. Once I finish with the Flockacy Ranch, you can see I now have Frustration on my moveset. This is literally the first TM you get in the whole run, and I'm pretty sure it'll be a lot better than Tackle at this point, at least for the first gym. Once I finish up all the stuff with Alder, I can head back to Esperita City, defeat the gym trainers, and take on the first gym leader, Charon. In challenge mode, everyone gets one extra Pokemon for the gym leader. Charon starts off with Patrat at level 12. I go for Vine Whip doing less than half. I forgot to heal for this fight like an idiot, so now I'm at 9 HP left. That does mean I'm in Overgrow range, but the Vine Whip still isn't doing that much. Next up is the Lillipup. I just keep going for Vine Whip, and then it goes for Work Up. I go for Vine Whip again, and that's the end of me. Yep, that was my fault. On the next attempt, I try and use Frustration to see if it would do better damage, and it kinda doesn't really do that much extra damage, so I just resort to using Vine Whip. The Lillipup just keeps living my attacks, it keeps going for Work Up, and then Tackle hits me for decent damage, but I eventually knock it out. The last challenge mode exclusive Pokemon is the P-Dove. Vine Whip does very little damage, it keeps trying to stack Work Up. I then realize I should not be using Vine Whip, so I switch over to Tackle, and I'm able to knock it out and get my first gym badge with a split time of 16 minutes and 52 seconds. Alright, let's take a look at Emboar, but first we have to go over its moveset and stuff. Emboar has a base stat total of 528, with 110 HP, 123 attack, 65 defense, 100 special attack, and then 65 special defense and 65 speed. Low speed in a Gen 5 speedrun is really not that good at all, but having that high of an attack and special attack is really good to have. For Emboar, I also use its regular ability because its hidden ability is Rock Head to prevent recoil damage, but I'm not really going to rely on those kind of moves anyway. So let's just take a look at the moveset now. We start off with Ember, Odor Sleuth, Tackle, and Tail Whip. Hammer Arm is only from Move Relearner, so if I want that, I gotta get a Heart Scale. And then after that, we can get Defense Curl, Flame Charge, Arm Thrust, Smog, Rollout, Takedown, Heat Crash, Assurance, Flamethrower, Head Smash, Roar, and Flare Blitz. And some notable TMs we get are Bulk Up, which again, we can't get, Hidden Power, same thing, Solar Beam, Smackdown, Earthquake, Return, Brick Break, Flamethrower, Fire Blast, Rock Tomb, Low Sweep, Overheat, Focus Blast, Scald for some reason. Well, it makes sense, Scald is hot water. Incinerate, Will-O-Wisp, Giga Impact, Stone Edge, Bulldoze, Rock Slide, Work Up, Poison Jab, Grass Knot, and Wild Charge. We're the only one of the 3 Unova starters to get access to Work Up, so this will be a great attack and special attack boosting move to have this early on. Even though Superior doesn't learn it, Growth is basically a clone of Work Up. If you're watching Emboar be thrown out into battles, you may notice those orange particles come out from underneath it. That's because Emboar is the heaviest of the 3 starters, so Emboar will lose time during battles just because of that animation. It may not be too much time, but over the course of the whole run, it does add up. With all of the early game stuff done pretty much the exact same way as Superior, we can now take on Charon. I could have grinded to a high level to get Arm Thrust, but I don't have it going into this fight. I do Ember on the first Patrat to do half damage, and then the second Ember knocks it out. Alright, I level up to level 15, and at this point I now have access to Flame Charge, which I will replace over Odor Sleuth, because Odor Sleuth is just a useless move, it just lets normal moves hit ghosts. Anyway, then on the Lillipup, I just spammed Flame Charge. Not only it's going to do more damage because of my higher attack, but also it can boost my speed stat, which is already in need of desperate help. And then when the Lillipup is knocked out, the P-Dove goes down pretty easily, and I get a Charon split with Emboar of 17 minutes and 29 seconds. Alright, now we've just got my favorite, Samurott. Samurott has a base stat total of 528 with 95 HP, 100 attack, 85 defense, 108 special attack, 70 special defense, and 70 speed. So we're slightly faster than Emboar, but we're still kinda slow. We're on that point where we can outspeed most things, but the fast things are gonna outspeed us. That's kinda what 70 is. And also, for this Pokemon, we actually are going with the hidden ability Shell Armor. This will prevent the opponent from landing critical hits, so this will make battles much more efficient and consistent. We start off with Tackle, Tail Whip, Water Gun, and Water Sport. Mega Horn, just like with Hammer Arm, we need a Heart Scale for that. And then after that, we can get Focus Energy, Razor Shell, which is a high crit move, Fury Cutter, Water Pulse, Revenge, Aqua Jet, Slash, Encore, Aqua Tail, Retaliate, Swords Dance, and Hydro Pump. So it's a really good thing we have access to Swords Dance by level up because the TM is locked away from us. And then the notable moves are Ice Beam and Blizzard, Return, Dig, Aerial Ace, Scald, Fling, Giga Impact, X Scissor, Dragon Tail, and Grass Knot. Can anyone explain why this thing gets Grass Knot? I do not know. Something I want to bring up, I ended up playing Samurott during a time of day and a day of the week where it is actually raining here, so my Water Gun gets a 50% damage boost. That was not intentional, that's just a coincidence. It's a shame though that the rain can't carry over to Asperitas City for the Charon fight, but oh well. Let's see how this fight goes. I'm at level 14 for this fight, Water Gun does half, the Patrat wastes its one turn with Workup, so that's 1 down, 2 to go. I level up to level 15, next up is the Ace Lillipup. Water Gun does half, it heals up with an Oran Berry, and then I have to use 2 more Water Guns for the knockout. Technically 1 extra since he used a potion. And last of all is the P-Dove. It goes down in 2 Water Guns, and Samurott gets the fastest Charon split, mainly thanks to finding a Psyduck easier, of 14 minutes and 6 seconds. So yeah, these times are all over the place, but early on, none of these guys had any resets or hard trainer fights. It's literally just from luck with finding the Psyduck. But then again, I have a new solution for HM users now, so when these runs eventually get second playthroughs, I will be able to use the more efficient strategies, so I'm not going to waste time hunting for Psyduck. So now, in the early game section of the game, we are going to be going over Roxy, Berg, and then we'll end it off with Elisa. This is what I like to call Chapter 2, the early game. Why don't we start with our last place contender, Emboar. As soon as I defeat Charon, I teach my Pokemon Workup, so now I have the ability to boost my attack and special attack by 1 stage when I need to. And then afterwards, Bianca tries to give me a C-Gear and it asks me if I want to turn it on. I immediately say no, because if I leave this thing on, then there's a slight chance when I go through loading zones or try and save, my game crashes. I have to make sure to leave this thing turned off. It doesn't really provide a disadvantage anyway. It's just whenever I have to reset, I can't just spam A to like go into the game because it'll ask you every time, do you want to turn this on? So I have to say no. And then I enter the Pokemon Center to buy some repels and potions and stuff, fight the trainers on Route 20, and then I enter Burbank City. Another reason I want to delay my HM users to Burbank is because this guard here gives you free Great Balls. Why wouldn't you wait? So then the first thing I do in Burbank City, I go down these stairs, up these stairs, and in this little hidden area is a Silk Scarf. This boosts the power of normal type moves by 20%, and since Emboar has the highest physical attack of the 3, I am greatly going to benefit from Return. I was given the TM for it by Bianca after Charon, but my friendship isn't high enough to be worth using yet. And then with that obtained, I do all the training in the Burbank complex, and then I have to talk to this scientist guy right here. He moves around all over the complex, but then once you talk to him for a 3rd time, he gives you an ether. This may not seem worth it, but ethers and elixirs in this game are very far and few in between. Like, they're really spread out. This is pretty much my first ether, and then the next one I can get, I think, is all the way until Driftvale City. So I'm going to be really limited on these. With all the stuff done in Burbank Complex, I can now take on the second gym leader, Roxy. I don't have a moveset change at all, although I do have Arm Thrust now over Tackle. It's not going to help with this gym though, but thought I'd point it out. Roxy leads off with a level 17 Coughing. I am now level 20. I go for Ember, it heals up with a berry, because in challenge mode more of the Pokemon have held items, although it really only affects the gym leaders, and eventually the Coughing goes down. Next up is the Grimer. I go for Ember, it does about a third, I get disabled with it, so I have to just go for Flame Charge. The reason I was holding off on that was because I was running low on PP. And then last up is the Whirlipede. I unfortunately cannot go with Ember because it's disabled, so on the Whirlipede I just spam workup until my Ember gets disabled, which it does when I have +2 special attack, and I can defeat Roxy on the first try while in Blaze range. So yeah, now it was kind of a close Roxy fight, but glad it went well. This next upcoming part with Pokestar Studios is one of the #1 reasons I don't like solo running this game. I still like it overall. If I had to list my #1 reason for not liking it, the Pokestar Studios is not skippable. It's literally 5 whole minutes of just watching someone else's awful movie, and then you have to make your own awful movie, and then you can finally leave. You don't even do any training or anything, it's all dialogue. But eventually when all that's over, I have to take on Team Plasma, chase them around Route 20, and then I can finally take the boat to Castelia City. When I exit the pier, this Harlequin gives me a bike, and then if I go around the city and talk to the other 3 Harlequins, I can go back to this guy and get a free rare candy. Also, there's this girl in here in one of the buildings with the Harlequin. If I tell her I started with a Tepig, and then she can give me a Charcoal. This will boost the power of fire moves by 20%. I will get the Miracle Seed and Mystic Water items, I will get them with the other 2. And then I can go inside the Battle Company and take out all of the trainers for the easy experience. Plus, on the 55th floor right here, there is a free ether. So never mind about the 5th gym. This part's when you can get another ether. And then, after forgetting where to go, I have to go into this one building near the top half of Castelia. I can talk to this girl and get the TM for Attract. I also got the TM from Rest from another guy in the Game Freak building. I mainly just got that as a backup. And then I just go to the drink stand and buy some lemonade. And then I can go in front of the gym and then find out that Berg is near the Castelia sewers. And then on my way to the sewers, I now get the rare candy. So when I enter the sewers, Hugh and I can actually team up. I know I call my rival Steve in almost every run after Steve M plays, but in scripting, I might call him Hugh, because that is his canon name. But anyway, the fun fact about him pairing up with you is that he'll heal up your Pokemon for you after all the fights, and there are a few trainers out in this direction, so I do want to fight them. But not only that, there's also the Leftovers held item, which is you can get really early in the run. I want to try and get it with Hugh here, so I can keep my Pokemon healed up. And then once I get it, I can take on the Team Plasma double battle. As you can see, I'm holding the Charcoal because I don't need the Leftovers yet, because at this point, Leftovers would heal like 4 HP, it's really not worth having. And then with Team Plasma done, I can enter the Castelia gym, take out the Bug-type trainers here, and I can take out the 3rd gym leader, Berg. Berg is quite difficult in White version 2, especially in challenge mode, but the #1 reason is because his Dwebble, unlike in Black version which had battle armor, in White version 2, normal and challenge mode, his Dwebble was given Sturdy instead, and it has the move Smackdown. So if I'm using a fire type, it will get a hit on me, and it also has Rock Polish 2, which is another version of agility. But luckily, Emboar is part fighting, so it's only neutral to rock moves, and I take it out. Then the Carablast is next, that's his White 2 challenge-specific Pokemon. And then next up is his Ace Levani. It is 4 times weak to fire, so one Flame Charge completely destroys it. I level up to level 26, and last up is the Shelmet. Obviously, this thing is not going to be a problem, right? And then after Berg, I get the feeling my friendship is high enough, so I teach the move Return over Arm Thrust. Although, now that I think about it, that might have been a mistake, because it actually can help with Colress coming up, because his first Magnemite has Sturdy, so it will always get a hit in, but multi-hit moves can work around Sturdy. So honestly, that's a misplay now that I think about it. I should have replaced Ember. But oh well, let's see how the Colress fight goes. Also, during this whole time, there's a Sandstorm on the route, because this is White version 2. In Black version 2, there's no Sandstorm. I go for Flame Charge, it lives on Sturdy, and it paralyzes me with Thunder Wave. And Colress uses a Super Potion, but luckily I burn it, which also goes through Sturdy. And then I defeat the Magnemite, get to level 27, and last up is the Clink. It's mainly just going to be going for moves like Charge, and I just can't move from Paralysis. Also, if I had said in past DS videos that the chance to not move was 50%, that was actually a lie. It's 25%. I don't know where I got that wrong information, but I made a community post about it, identifying that it was incorrect, so just letting you know, it's 25% in every single game. Although it kind of feels like 50%. And then with Colress defeated, I can go a bit north, go here, and get the TM for Dig. This will really help with the upcoming Elisa battle. And then once I enter Nimbasa City, I heal at the center, buy a crap ton of super repels, and I buy some antidotes and paralyze heals too. And then I work with Nate to do a double battle with the boss of the battle subways, because the reason I want to do that is because I want to enter the subway, go to Anvil Town, and then go in this house to get a free rare candy. That's it, that's literally the only reason. Plus, Ingo and Emmett give kinda okay training because they have a Boldor and a Girder. Although the Boldor can be scary for me because it has Sturdy, but luckily with always replacing the grass starter, Nate will have a Duwad. And now that I'm back in Nimbasa City, I go east towards Route 16 and defeat a bunch of the trainers that are there too, because I really don't know if I'm ready for Elisa because her Emolga has Aerial Ace in challenge mode, so I really am at a disadvantage here. All three of our starters will be, just because of challenge mode Emolga. And then I can enter the Lost Lorn Forest, and I can talk to this Pokemon breeder right here. He has a Tranquil and a Liepard, and he's easily rematchable because in the Gen 5 games, specifically Black 2 and White 2, Pokemon breeders are infinitely rematchable. You just have to leave and reload the area. And he's so close to the entrance too, and he has near fully evolved Pokemon, so they give really high XP yields. So I can actually use him for training if I want to. But the main reason I'm here, I want to defeat Pokemon Ranger Forest because he gives a Cherry Berry. I want this for Elisa. And then once I finish up the training, I have to go to the old Nimbasa City gym, defeat the trainers in there, go to the very end, so that way I can get access to the real gym, and then I can defeat the trainers in there and take on the 4th gym leader, Elisa. She starts off with a level 30 Emolga. I'm only level 34 for this fight. It outspeeds and goes for Aerial Ace. I go for a turn 1 workup. So now I'm going to go for Flame Charge, knocking it out in one hit. I have the Cherry Berry equipped just in case. I level up to level 35. The Flaffy has static. Hopefully it doesn't activate. It doesn't, but it activates Thunder Wave anyway. So I know Elisa's going to heal, so I use a workup. So now let me use a Ember, because I do not want to risk contact, but I honestly should have just taken the risk and go for Flame Charge, because while being paralyzed and confused, this fight does not go well. That was my first reset of the run too. On the next attempt on turn 1, Emolga decided for some reason to go for a turn 1 Pursuit. I really don't know why, but then I take it out in one hit, it activates static, so now my Cherry Berry is gone. I'm only 36 HP too. I do get Blaze luckily, but unfortunately static activates on the Flaffy, so now I have to move on to the Joltik Paralyzed. The Joltik and the Zebstrika here do not have static. It's only the first 2 Pokemon, so that was really unlucky. And this fight doesn't go well either. I'm going to skip to the winning attempt, which was 3 resets into the run. When I finally defeat the Emolga after a bit of setup, I go for one more workup on the Flaffy. It goes for Volt Switch, switching into Joltik, and now at this point I can begin the sweep. I knock out the Joltik in one hit. I knock out the Flaffy in one hit, don't activate static, and last up is the Zebstrika. With all the Flame Charge I've been using, I will 100% outspeed the Zebstrika, and I go for a return, and I get an early game split of 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 15 seconds. Alright, Elisa was a bit hard there, but let's see how the others do. Why don't we take a look at our first place contender, Samurott. I pretty much do all the same stuff as Emboar all the way up till Roxy, so let's skip straight to her. I am at now level 19, I have the move Razor Shell. I'm going for a mix of Razor Shell and Water Gun on the Koffing because I really can't tell which is doing more damage, but honestly I should have just gone for Razor Shell due to the higher crit chance. Anyway, it doesn't matter, I knock it out, next up is the Grimer. I go for Water Gun, it disables it. Actually, that was a smart idea, spam Water Gun so if it uses Disable, I can keep Razor Shell. Okay, and last up is the Whirlipede. And also, if you're asking, no, Water Sport does not increase water moves. All it does is weaken fire damage, so it's kind of pointless. But then on the Whirlipede, I unfortunately get poisoned, and the Whirlipede lives in red health, and Samurott gets a reset. I do a bit of training in the Verbank Complex, which I should have done in the first place, and now I'm at level 20 over a damage rounding threshold. I knock out the Coughing in 2 hits thanks to a crit. Next up is the Grimer. I go for Razor Shell. Luckily it doesn't go for Disable, and I can knock it out in 2 hits. Last up is the Whirlipede. I go for Razor Shell, doing half damage, and it lowers defense too, so that's real good. And then I go for another Razor Shell. It goes for Protect, of course. And then when I eventually hit, I decide to go with Water Gun, and then Water Gun finishes the job. In Castelia City, I get the Mystic Water from that person I got the Charcoal from. It's really nice that the Grass, Fire, Water type boosting items are really easy in this game, because the other ones aren't exactly easy to get. And then I go around the city, get the usual stuff like the TM for Attract and the TM for Rest. And then I can head into the sewers, get the leftovers. I'm still going to hold on to Mystic Water for now. And then I can help out Hugh take out Team Plasma. And then I can go take on Berg. I sort of don't have a type advantage because the Dwebble takes super effective damage, but it's not like it matters anyway because it has Sturdy. But let's see how it goes. For some reason I try and set up Fury Cutters on the Dwebble, thinking I wouldn't take too much damage, because maybe if I can get to the rest of them, Fury Cutter will be enough damage to actually one-shot the rest of his Pokemon. And then during the fight, I now have Water Pulse, which I teach in the place of Water Gun. And then when the Levani comes out, Fury Cutter luckily doesn't miss, and it's enough for the one-shot. So at this point, pretty much anything will kill the Shelmet. I just go for Fury Attack and it lives, so I just switch over to Razor Shell and get the win. Okay, this upcoming Colress battle I am kind of worried about. Obviously because I'm a water type and he uses electric types, but let's take a look. I go for Water Pulse, it obviously lives, and Water Pulse actually confuses the Magnemite and it hits itself, so yeah, I was able to completely avoid Thunder Wave. That is a really rare sight to see. And then I can get the TM for Dig, which I teach in the place of Fury Cutter. And then I eventually enter Nimbasa City, do all the same inside city errands I did as Embor, such as getting the rare candy in Anvil Town. And then I head on over to Route 16, do some extra training. And then I can defeat Pokemon Ranger Forest and get a Cherry Berry. For Elisa though, I'm definitely worried about using Samurott because of the type disadvantage, so I do a bit of extra training on the Pokemon Breeder. I'm level 36 by the time I arrive at Elisa. Unfortunately, Razor Shell does not get the one-shot on Emolga, and then it paralyzes me with Static, so I just reset right away. On the second attempt, Razor Shell still leaves it in yet red health, which is really irritating, so I probably should have trained to level 38 or something to guarantee the one-shot. And then with the Joltik switched in, I take it out in 1 hit. And then on the Flaffy, I go for Dig, please don't activate Static. It doesn't, okay. And then when the Emolga comes back out, I go for a Return and knock it out. Alright, now we just got the Zebstrika. I am obviously going to go for Dig on this, but it does outspeed and hit a Volt Switch, leaving me at 25 HP. And then it survives my Dig, the Berry puts it out of heal range, and then the second Volt Switch finishes me off. I go back to Lostlorn Forest and defeat the Pokemon Breeder some more to get to level 38. I go for Slash on the Emolga by mistake, activate Static so I get another reset, of course. Now on the Emolga, hopefully it'll be a one-shot. It is not. Are you serious? That might have been a low range or something. But oh well, at least Static doesn't activate. Then the Joltik is very easy to take care of. But I'm mainly worried about the Flaffy because I'm holding on to Mystic Water for this fight because I don't want to have the Cherry Berry. Unfortunately, I get hit with Static, but if it cooperates with me, I might be able to still take out the Zebstrika. It hits me with Volt Switch, Razor Shell gets a lucky critical hit, and I knock it out on 1 hit. That is nice. And Samurott gets an early game split of 1 hour, 19 minutes, and 36 seconds. Man, pretty much 2 of the 3 starters have struggled on Elisa, and I'm pretty sure Serperior will. But let's take a look at Serperior's battles. I did as much training as possible with Serperior for the upcoming Poison type gym. I also have a Pecha Berry equipped, and my moveset now has Leech Seed, Growth, and Leaf Tornado, as well as Return, because at least it'll be better than Tackle. I am level 20 for this fight. On the Coughing, I go for Return doing a third, and then a super effective Venoshock does pretty decent damage, and then Assurance doesn't do that much. So then I decide to use 1 Growth, and then use Return to knock it out. I probably should have used Growth on the first turn, but this was just experimentation. And then the Grimer looks like it'll be a 2-shot with Return, which it is, but since I'm at 1 HP, there is just no way I can win outside of a crit. But then again, I think even with a crit, it still would have won, so I get a rollout and then I get a reset. After a bunch more unsuccessful attempts, I go to Route 20 in the dark grass and just train there. The dark grass has higher leveled Pokemon than the regular grass, but there is the chance of double battles. I come back at level 21, and then I arrive at the Whirlipede at 15 HP left. Alright, it goes for Protect. I should have used a work up there. Oh well, Return almost one-shots it. Come on, just one more. Yes, there we go. I level up to level 22 and defeat Roxy. I get the feeling that the third gym will be difficult as well due to it being the bug type. So honestly, grass types kinda get the Johto treatment in this game, although the ground gym and the water type gym are pretty difficult gyms too, so at least it'll be nice having an advantage there. I now have a new move for this fight. Over the place of Leech Seed, I now have Mega Drain. It's not really going to help that much either, but at least it's better than what I had before. Alright, now on Berg, he starts off with his Dwebble. The first thing I do is go for Growth, and then it goes for Rock Polish, so I use another one. So at this point, it's probably going to outspeed me now. So I just go for Leaf Tornado, Sturdy activates, it heals with its Citrus Berry, and then it was able to put it out of a Super Potion range, and I can knock out the Dwebble. Alright, next up is the Carablast. Hopefully it return one-shots? Yes it does. And then now we're on the Levani. I stick to using Return because it double resists grass moves, it lives, and then the berry puts it above half health, but luckily the second Return gets the one-shot. And obviously the Shelmet's going to be a piece of cake. For Colress, I just go for a Return because I know I'm not going to one-hit it anyway, so now I just enter the Clink paralyzed. That's pretty much the norm at this point, but let's just see how unlucky or lucky I get. I just go for Mega Drain on Clink, it really doesn't do that much, so I switch on over to Leaf Tornado to see how much it does. I keep getting hit with Gear Grind, Leaf Tornado does a decent amount, and then it just goes for Charge instead of attacking me. And then Colress uses a Super Potion. I'm trying to use Mega Drain to heal up, but it's clearly just a waste of time. I should be using Leaf Tornado, but luckily the next Gear Grind misses. I'm at 3 HP, Gear Grind misses again, and I beat Colress in a Sandstorm at 3 HP while paralyzed. That is insane. It's kind of ironic how Samurott had the best time against him because of a confusion from Water Pulse. I do all the same training as the other two, and I make it all the way to Elisa. At level 33 with a Cherry Berry. I have the same moveset as with Berg. Let's check out how the Emolga goes. On the first turn, I outspeed it and go for Growth, raising my attack. I go for it a second time, so now I can start the sweep. Emolga's a one-shot with Return. It doesn't activate Static. I level up to level 34. Next up is the Joltik. One Return is obviously going to destroy it. And next up is the Substrika. It's interesting. Probably because it has Flame Charge, which it uses and I get a loss. Darn it. For those of you wondering, the Substrika has 91 speed, and the Emolga has 71 speed, so I'm somewhere between 71 and 91 speed. On the next attempt, I try to go for a +1 return sweep instead of a +2. I get hit with Static, not once but twice, so obviously this run's just set up for disaster, so I reset. Man, every single run today is just struggling at Elisa. Just like I did with Samurott, I go into the Lostlorn Forest to train on the Pokemon Breeder. You know what, I never got his name. Pokemon Breeder Gallon. Alright, Gallon training. Got it. I re-enter the fight at level 37. I should have gone up to 38, I don't know why. And then as soon as I get to the Substrika, Leaf Tornado's doing okay damage, and Flame Charge isn't doing that much to me. So then I defeat it, I get to 38, so now I can learn the move Coil. Coil is actually a pretty interesting move. It raises your attack, defense, and your accuracy by 1 stage each. I want to hold on to Growth 2 for the special attack, so I just delete Leaf Tornado. And also during the fight, I learned Leaf Blade, so I need to update the moves on my overlay, which I forget to do for quite a bit. That's the disadvantage of not having Game Hook. I hope to have the integration one day. But oh well, I finally defeat Elisa and get a split time of 1 hour, 27 minutes, and 33 seconds. So now, Emboar has taken the lead over Samurott by 7 minutes, and Serperior is around 8 minutes behind Samurott. So things are definitely going in interesting directions, but Emboar could struggle with the ground type and the water type gym coming up, because the next section of the game, we're going to be going over Clay, Skyla, Drayden, followed by Marlin. We're not going to go over Team Plasma stuff. I want to save that for a different split because the Team Plasma stuff has a lot of hard fights in it. This is the chapter I like to call Chapter 3, the mid-game. You may think the mid-game has too many badges, but the whole Team Plasma stuff, like in a normal run, that can take around like 40 minutes, plus there's a bunch of major fights, so I think that should be a different split. Why don't we continue off with Samurott? As we fight these Team Plasma grunts with Hugh, I just want to mention what the next 4 gyms are. Clay uses ground-type Pokemon, Skyla uses flying types, Drayden uses dragon types, and Marlin uses water types. I have a type advantage at the 5th gym. At the 7th gym, if I can get Ice Beam or Blizzard, I can get Blizzard in the Lacanosa City Pokemon Center just before Opalucid for 70 grand, so I could get Blizzard for that fight. If I wanted Ice Beam, it's in the Giant Chasm, which you have to have all 8 badges for, so we don't have access to that yet. And then I can defeat the trainers on Route 5, and now, since this is White version 2, I am challenged to a triple battle with Charles. If this was Black version 2, this would be a rotation battle. I think the triple battle is probably better because in triple battles, my HM users can serve as decoys, which is always really nice to have. And then I eventually defeat his 3 Pokemon. And then I can go across the bridge, enter Driftfell City, and now there's a couple things I want to get. Just like in Black version, I go in here, talk to this guy to get the Expert Belt if my Pokemon is over level 30, which they almost always are. This boosts the power of super effective moves by 20%, and then I buy a dozen Moo Moo Milks for cheap healing items. I defeat the former Team Plasma Sage Rud, and then I press A by accident and receive the Zorua, which is useless because it doesn't get any good HMs that I want. And then in the Pokemon Center, I buy some extra Super Repels, because starting in Black and White 2, you can actually use a repel from the overworld because it'll be like, hey, your repel ran out, would you like to use another one? Since I want to keep it up as long as possible so I don't have to go into the bag, because going through the bag takes longer than most other games, so I want to greatly reduce that time. And then I can enter Driftfell City Gym, defeat any mandatory fights, and then I can take on the 5th gym leader, Clay. He starts off with Krokorok, which has Intimidate in Black 2 and White 2, while in Black and White 1 it didn't. So then I use Razor Shell for the one-shot. Also, I have Slash on my moveset, I may have forgotten to mention that, but honestly, Razor Shell is just better just because of Stab. And then next up is his Challenge Mode specific Onix. It has Sturdy too, and I have to be careful because it does have Explosion, which it uses, but it only does like 30 or so damage because of how bad its attack is. Also, in modern generations, unlike Generation 1, Explosion does not have the opponent's defense when calculating damage. At some generation they quit doing that, I don't remember which. And then right after that is the Excadrill. It is almost a one-shot with Razor Shell, and then I run out, so now I've got to use Dig. Luckily, Bulldoze does not hit if you're underground. I really feel like it should, but I'm not complaining. And then next up, I have to go through the Driftfell tournament in the Pokemon World Tournament. This is mandatory for the story. You basically have to fight Hugh, Charon, and then Colress in a PWT style. Everyone is level 25, which is the level they are in the Driftfell tournament, but for the very first one, to make sure you're guaranteed the win, your levels are not reduced to level 25. It'd be kind of a fun challenge if it was, but at the same time, I'm glad it's not. So then with all 3 of them defeated, I get 1 battle point. I can use this to buy a vitamin. Normally, I can buy vitamins at the Shopping Mall 9 on Route 9 by Opalucid, but however, at that point, usually I have a lot of money to just buy so many vitamins, but for these starter Pokemon, they're already very strong in their stats, so I don't think with any of them I buy vitamins. So here I just buy a Carbos. So now at this point, the Team Plasma Frygate is parked south of the PWT, so me, Charon, and Hugh have to take out all the Plasma Grunts, get kicked off, and then in the PWT area right here, I can talk to this tile and get another Ether. I heal up at the center, go through Route 6, get to the Weathers Study Building place, I really don't know what the place is called, and then inside the building, Charon gives me the HM for Surf. Even though my special attack is not as good as my physical attack, Surf is going to be a really good move to have. And then I can go through the Chargestone Cave, not fight any mandatory trainers. I may fight a few optionals by mistake. Unlike Black and White 1, there's none of the Team Plasma Grunts in there, so it's just really fast to get through the cave. And then when I get out, Professor Juniper here gives me a Master Ball. I don't even think I use it throughout the whole run. Black and White 1, I do use it to capture the Reshiram, but in this game I don't use it. So now at this point, I can either take on Skyla or go to the Celestic Tower and do some training. I'm going to go to the Celestic Tower, but not exactly for training. I want to talk to Professor Juniper in here to get my free Lucky Egg. This will give me a free 50% boost to the experience I earn, and since I'm in the medium slow experience group, plus Black 2 and White 2 challenge mode is really difficult at times, this is going to be a great item to have. Plus, while I'm here, I test out my Lucky Egg and do a bunch of the optional trainers here. And if you're wondering, that glitch from Black and White 1 where you could press B and then you can make the spinners change direction, that has been fixed in this game so it doesn't work. But that's fine because this place is optional anyway. And then as soon as I get to the very top, I can actually fly away, but then at this point I realized I forgot to catch a flyer. So I have to go in the grass right here to try and find a Tranquil. It takes me a while, but luckily I do find one, so at least I have a use for my Master Ball. So now with my flyer obtained, I can go inside the 6th gym, go through this puzzle. Ow! Dang it, OSHA, how have you not shut this place down? And then I can take on the 6th gym leader, Skyla. One reason Skyla can be a very difficult gym leader is because the Swoobat has Attract. So on the Swoobat, I go for Surf and I knock it out in one hit. Since I'm running with a male Pokemon, I could use Attract, but so could she. Then the Sigilyph almost goes down to 1 Surf, Psychic lowers my special defense, Skyla uses a Hyper Potion, I go for Surf again, it lives in red health, and then 1 more Surf takes it out. And then I level up to level 48. And then next is her challenge mode exclusive Skarmory. 1 Surf almost knocks it out, but not quite. And it's not like it matters anyway, the Skarmory has Sturdy. And last up is the Swanna. Obviously Surf's not the answer, I go for Return, and I get a crit and knock it out. Alright, now at this point there's a lot of walking around we have to do from the 6th to the 7th gym. Because Twist Mountain is shut off, we have to take a plane over to Lentimus Town, and then go through Reversal Mountain to Undella Town, and then take those routes all the way to Opalucid. I do a bit of training around Reversal Mountain, and then I go inside the strange house right here because in this small room I can get a free rare candy. And then I can use my Samurott to dig out, and now I can enter Reversal Mountain. I really like how this place looks in White version 2 compared to Black version 2. In Black version 2, this place is a dormant volcano with water in it instead of lava, so this place looks a lot cooler in this game. And then with Bianca, she can heal my Pokemon up for me, but I'm trying to be careful to avoid any of the optional trainers, because if I fight any optional trainers that are by themselves, Bianca won't be able to help me, plus some of these guys are triple and rotation battle guys. I really do not want to fight them. Especially that black belt you saw me just trying to avoid. That guy is a rotation battle. So then I go further ahead and defeat these 2 ace trainers, which are mandatory fights. And then I eventually make it to the end of Reversal Mountain and into Undella Town. So now I can actually take on my rival for the first time since the Pokemon World Tournament. I don't really count the World Tournament as a rival fight because his levels are lowered to 25 and it just doesn't feel hard. So now let's take on what I like to call Rival 3. At this point, his Pokemon do have held items too in challenge mode. I don't know if it's like that in normal mode. So on his Unpheasant, I go for Surf, knocking it out in one hit, and I gain like 3,400 XP points. That just shows you the power of the Lucky Egg. And then Emboar is a one-shot with Surf, and obviously the Simipour isn't going to be an issue. Any trainers who in this game, unless they have custom teams, their movesets are really bad because the best thing these monkeys get since they're stone evolutions is basically like Scald or Incinerate or Seed Bomb, depending on which one it is, and the others are like Tackle and Leer and Lick. Stone evolutions get like no level up moves. So then with the rival defeated, I go through the rest of the routes, and then I eventually make my way to Lacunosa Town. At this place, I have to listen to an old lady tell a story about Kyurem. So now when I try to leave town, I have to fight Team Plasma with Hugh, but before I do that, I go in the Pokemon Center, I have 70,000, and I purchase the TM for Blizzard. This will be very helpful for the upcoming Dragon-type gym. I teach that move in the place of Dig. The Team Plasma multi-battle is pretty easy. Then on Route 13, which is the route right afterwards, I can get a hidden rare candy. I bring up my dowsing machine because I struggle to remember where it is. Even though I had a rappel up, I accidentally walked into a patch of rustling grass. Yeah, it doesn't prevent you from rustling grass. So since I found the auto-no, I just defeat it and get 2800 XP. Not bad. And then I can continue going west towards the village bridge. There's only one mandatory fight here. It's just this one gentleman Stonewall. He has a Durant and a Lucario. I defeat him pretty easily. I go in the grass right here to get a hidden Max Ether, and then I can proceed. I go through Route 11, Virizion sees me and I say nope, and then I arrive in Opelucid City. The city looks different in black version and white version. In black version it's more futuristic, while in white 2 it has the old traditional look. So that's one of the things I like about doing white 2 over black 2, even though I do black version. It's just because I can see differences like this. Plus you can see N riding a Reshiram later. And now I can enter Drayden's gym, take out his gym trainers. You don't have to fight all of them. One of them is a triple, one of them's rotation battle. You have to fight one of them. His gym trainers are actually quite difficult. Veteran Rhonda right here, I live at like 20 HP, so yeah, you can't underestimate these guys. So with the mandatory gym trainers defeated, let's take on the 7th gym leader, Drayden. He starts off with his level 50 Druddigan, and I'm only level 55. See, that's despite having the Lucky Egg. If I didn't have the Lucky Egg, I'd be like level 48 at this point. And then it lives, it hits me with a Revenge for decent damage, so I just use a Surf for the knockout. Alright, next up is the Flygon. This thing is 4 times weak to ice. I land a Blizzard for a devastating blow. I level up to level 56. Next up is the Altaria. This is the challenge mode exclusive Pokemon. It is also 4 times weak, so I take it out. And then last up is the Haxorus at level 52. This thing has Mold Breaker, which just prevents abilities from working, so the Haxorus could crit me. But oh well, one Blizzard finishes off the Haxorus for 5200 XP, oh my god. And then after that, I am now able to learn Swords Dance, and I teach it in the place of Razor Shell. At this point, I have physical and special moves, so Swords Dance would only really work with Return, but I will get some physical moves later, like when I get the HM for Waterfall for example. And then when I leave the gym, Drayden tells me a story, the Plasma Frygate freezes the whole place, and then I defeat the Team Plasma Grunts, Zinzolin, the Team Plasma Shadow Triad. I actually get 1 reset on Zinzolin because his Cryogonal gets a freeze on me. So yeah, that was really unlucky. And then with all that stuff done, I can fly back to Undella Town, and then I can enter the Marine Tube and head my way to Hulamau City. So now, we can just go up to this area, find Marlin in the water, and we can get him to re-enter his gym. So now, as after we spent a long time going from Skyla to Drayden, we can pretty much immediately go to Marlin. But still, with Swords Dance on my side, this is going to be a pretty easy fight, but let's still cover it. Going into this fight, I now have Dragon Tail taught in the place of Blizzard. This is just so I can hit his Jellicent, which is immune to Return. I go for a Swords Dance on the Whale Lord, it goes for Earthquake, not doing that much. I set up all the way to +6, it sets up Rain Dance, which really doesn't bother me at all, unless one of his Pokemon have Swift Swim, I can't remember. I defeat the Whale Lord in 1 hit. Next up is the Jellicent. It outspeeds and goes for Energy Ball, I miss Dragon Tail, and then I get a reset. Dang it, dude. I get another reset because the Whale Lord uses Scald, which burns me. Finally, 10 resets into the run, I defeat the Whale Lord for a 2nd time. So now let's see if Dragon Tail can hit Jellicent this time. I go for Surf just to do a bit of chip damage. The rain finally stops, and then I can switch on over to Dragon Tail, but then it hits me with Shadow Ball. See what I mean about the low speed? I can outspeed most things, but then the fast things are going to cause problems. Luckily, on the next attempt, I have more health going into it, and Dragon Tail gets a crit. So now is the Caracosta. This thing has Sturdy, so I just go for Surf for chip damage, but it does more than half. The Caracosta wastes its time with Shell Smash. It's so slow, it's not going to outspeed me anyway, and its defenses are now even worse, so that's honestly really good for me. I deny learning Hydro Pump, and last up is the Mantine. 1 return is going to do the job just fine. And Samurott has finished the Gym Leader Challenge with a split time of 2 hours, 30 minutes, and 25 seconds. Alright, that was definitely a lot, but for the other 2 Pokemon, we're only going to really cover Gym Leaders or any other parts where I get a reset. So why don't we switch on over to Superior. I have no problems going up to Clay. This time I now have a type advantage and I updated my moveset. I have Leaf Blade, Growth, Coil, and Return. So now next up is the Onix. It lives thanks to a Sturdy. And then Clay Hyper Potions, I Leaf Blade again. Hopefully I can outspeed it. I don't. It goes for Explosion, which does like 30 damage. Just pathetic. And then next up is the Sand Slash. I go for Leaf Blade for the 2-hit. Unfortunately, it's a physical move, so the Sand Slash will not go down in 1 hit to it. And last up is the Excadrill. I go for Leaf Blade doing half, it heals with a Citrus Berry, which is not good because Leaf Blade is not going to be able to 2-shot it. Maybe it could have an Overgrow range, but I end up just getting a loss. Going back to the Excadrill, I actually get my 2 Leaf Blades off and defeat it with 3 HP to spare. You know what's dumb? I should have had a type advantage here, not win on 3 HP. I go through the PWT, get my 1 free battle point, and I use that to just purchase a Carbos. Although, to be honest, my speed's already really good. I probably should have invested in a protein, but whatever. I do have some unfortunate news. I encounter an optional ace trainer at the very end of Chargestone Cave. She starts off with a Turtoga. That's fine. 1 Leaf Blade can easily finish it. I misclick and go for a turn twice. I don't know why. I was just being dumb. But eventually a Leaf Blade knocks it out. I don't even know if that thing has sturdy anyway. Then on the Magmar, I go for return. It lives on low health. It confuses me with Confuse Ray. I hit myself. Flame Burst does a lot of damage. I hit myself again, and then the Magmar kills me with Fire Punch. I had not saved in a while, so I have to black out all the way back to Nimbasa City. Oh my god, that is so painful. Luckily, I make it through the cave quite easily, avoid her this time, and then I can enter Mistralton City. I go ahead and get my Lucky Egg. I don't do the Celestic Tower training, I just go straight to Skyla. I don't know how much of a good idea that's going to be, but we'll see. I'm only level 43 for this fight. I go for a coil, raising my attack, defense, and accuracy. However, Acrobatics is doing so much damage, but I do live long enough to set up +2. Who knows, I might be able to one-shot everything from here, but then I just remembered, oh wait, the Skarmory. Yeah, this isn't gonna work. After 4 resets, I realize I need to go do some training, so I just fight some trainers. I accidentally talk to a youngster in the grass who's a rotation battle guy. I really need to memorize where these guys are so I can deliberately avoid them. I do want to mention in the tower though, when I was trying to fight the nurse for the training, I accidentally die on the Levani due to a crit. I tried to black out on the Levani, but then my Patrat knocks it out. So now I ended up defeating her, but then the nurse just heals my Pokemon for me. This really should not count in the run, but since all of these Pokemon will eventually get second playthroughs, because as soon as I upgrade my PC in the new year, all the Gen 4 and Gen 5 runs are going to get redos because I've lost so much time in these runs due to FPS drops. So I'm going to let this slide for now, but this will get a second playthrough where this will not slide. As soon as I finish all my training, I go back into Skyla's gym, take out her gym trainers, and then take on the gym leader herself at level 48, close to 49. I go for a coil, acrobatics does less than half. I go for a second coil, so now I'm at low HP. Alright, let's see if I can sweep. And then return does way less damage on the Swoobat. That is not good. On the next attempt, the Swoobat hit me with a tract, and I fell in love and I couldn't move. Okay, I think I know what the winning strat's going to be. I'm going to skip ahead to the winning attempt. The winning strategy was 19 resets into the run. My moveset consists of Ring Out, Growth, Attract, and Return. The Attract is the key. Since I'm using a male Pokemon, I can use Attract on her Pokemon, and then thanks to Attract luck, I am able to take her team out. Oh my god, she was so difficult. This thing has struggled at almost every single gym in the whole run. This thing kind of feels like Gen 2 Meganium. Before I take on Rival 3 in Undella Town, I fly back to the Pokemon World Tournament with a Heart Scale, and then I can reteach the move Giga Drain to my Pokemon over Attract, because I really needed Attract for the Skyla fight, but I still need Giga Drain for the upcoming Marlin fight, so I have to get that move back. I win the Team Plasma multi-battle with Hugh in Lacanosa Town despite being frozen for half of the fight, and then I eventually make it to Opelucid to fight Drayden. I do as much training as I can for him, so I enter the battle at level 57, 3 levels higher than Samurott was. I start setting up with Growth. I got rid of Coil because I want the boost to special attack instead of defense and accuracy. So I set up a few times, and I try spamming this whole fight, but then unfortunately on the Druddigon, it goes for Dragon Tail, forcing a switch. So now I actually have to switch back in, which is a pain because I lost all my stat boosts. I really should have just reset when that happened, but oh well, it's not like it mattered. I end up dying anyway. I get quite unlucky with this run, but luckily only after like 5 or so resets, I am able to defeat Drayden. You see the reset counter? I'm 24 resets into this run. This is painful. Hopefully, the only gym I'll have an advantage at all is the water type gym leader Marlin. During when I was fighting the gym trainers, I now have Leaf Storm taught to my Pokemon, so hopefully this helps out. Unfortunately, when I enter the fight the first time, I'm all out of power points because I didn't heal up, so I just go for 1 growth and then use a Giga Drain, which luckily one-shots the Whale Lord, although I'm not sure if I'm going to have enough HP for the rest of his team, but we'll see. Luckily, growth does raise attack too, not just special attack like it did back in the old days, so at least when I run out of Giga Drains, I can just rely on return, although I need to save some Giga Drains for the Jellicent because I can't use return on the Jellicent. And then I make it all the way to the Jellicent. It was at this point I realized I f***ed up because I am out of Giga Drains, so I have to use an Ether on my moves, so now on the next attempt, I can defeat Marlin's team and finish the gym challenge with a split time of 3 hours, 12 minutes, and 42 seconds. That was awful. Like, all of the gym leaders were just awful except Marlin. But still, I had a reset on him from running out of Giga Drains. Alright, let's take a look at Emboar, and then we can discuss splits. When I take on the triple battle with motorcyclist Charles, I do get 1 reset here due to bad luck, but I do win on the second try. Alright, so now it's Emboar's turn to take on the ground-type gym leader Clay. I start off with a turn 1 workup, I get hit with Bulldoze lowering my speed, and then Krokorok sets up a Sandstorm. Uh-oh. Alright, so now I just go for another Flame Charge, knocking it out. Luckily it didn't use Torment on me, which prevents me from using the same move twice in a row. That would be pretty bad. So then on the Onix, I use 1 Emboar to try and break its Sturdy, but I really don't have a good answer for it, so on the Onix, I just try and continually set up workup. But then unfortunately, the Onix blows itself up and I live at 1 HP. There is no way I'm going to one-shot the rest of his team, right? I go for return, it lives in yellow health, and yeah, I die. 11 resets into the run, I'm finally able to win, most notably because I got a burn on the Onix, so it wasn't able to do as much damage to me. I had a feeling though Emboar would struggle here. This was honestly kind of expected. For my vitamin of the PWT, I buy a Carbos, which will definitely come in handy since I'm the slowest of the group. I enter the Relic Passage, not to catch a strength user, I want to get a rare candy that's deep in the cave. I don't like going for this rare candy just because of how far out of the way it is. But actually, before I go through Chargestone Cave, I go through the Miss Stralton Cave, which you have to surf to. I didn't teach Flash to anybody, you can get the TM for it in Castalia, but I want to get to the very end of this place and I can get the TM for Rock Slide, which will come in handy for the upcoming Skyla battle, so let's skip straight ahead. When I enter this fight, I now have Rock Slide on my moveset, and I do have Flamethrower. I forgot to update it on my overlay with Flame Charge, so oops. I lose the first attempt because of Attract luck. You know, I really should have considered teaching Attract over Return just for extra consistency here, but I really didn't think of that at the time. Especially since the Swoobat outspeeds me anyway. So I just have to spam Rock Slide and hope it eventually hits. After 17 resets into the run so far, I just could not beat Skyla with my Attract strategy, mainly because I can't outspeed her Swoobat. So I do a bunch of extra training on the trainers up to the Celestic Tower and in the tower, and I go back to Skyla at level 51. I go for Rock Slide, I finally outspeed it, so I can actually one-shot it. Okay, so far so good. Now for the Swanna, I go for Rock Slide again, it luckily doesn't get the 10% chance to miss, I get to level 52, next up is the Sigilyph. Rock Slide takes it out in one hit, and obviously it won't take out the Skarmory, not only because it's neutral to Rock due to its Steel typing, it also has Sturdy. So I just go for Return to try and break it a bit, and then I switch on over to Flamethrower after Aerial Ace doesn't do that much damage. I make it all the way to Drayden at level 57 without any extra resets. I use a workup on Hydreigon, it hits me with Rock Slide for not too much damage, and then I go for Flamethrower by mistake, not doing too much, so I switch on over to Return, and I'm able to one-shot it. I just didn't know if it had Rough Skin or not. It looks like the answer is no. And then next up is the Flygon. I go for Return, almost knocking it out in one hit, but then Earth Power does. I am able to win a couple of resets later, although it was very, 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 very close. Like, this game is not as easy as some of you guys may think. I know pretty much no one thinks this game is easy, but if however hard you think this is, double it. Now with a heart scale in hand, I go to the PWT and I actually reteach arm thrust to my Embor because I now realize just how helpful this move will be for Colress. And then I fly back to Route 6 behind the weather building. I can actually get the TM for Fling. This will come helpful later in the run. Fling basically throws your held item at the opponent, you don't get it back, and then its base power depends on the item. So now with my moveset of Fling, Arm Thrust, Rock Slide, and Flamethrower while holding the Hard Stone, I can enter the Marlin fight. Just like before, he starts off with his Whale Lord. I go for Rock Slide. It does pretty much exactly half. Scald cannot burn me, so will a second Rock Slide knock it out? It lives in red HP. That hurts to see. But then luckily after it heals, I am able to knock it out. Then next up is the Caracosta. I go for Arm Thrust. Here's the thing here. I pretty much have to get a 5-turn Arm Thrust to one-shot this thing without it attacking me. So I have to try and get lucky here. Although if it only hits like 4 times or so, here's the thing, each individual hit has its own separate chance to crit. 22 resets into the run, this is my winning attempt. I use Arm Thrust, and then it goes for Shell Smash, lowering its defense, and then I get enough hits, I get to 2, sadly. Scald makes me live at 25 HP, and then the next Arm Thrust knocks it out. You know, if I wasn't getting just 2 and 2 and 2 with Arm Thrust, I definitely would have had a much easier time with this fight. But oh well, Embor finally finishes the Gym Leader Challenge with a split time of 3 hours, 3 minutes, and 1 second. So Samurott has now picked up the lead, and it is an absolute massive lead. It is 33 minutes ahead of Embor, and Superior is 9 minutes behind Embor. This is all because water types have it much more friendly in the mid game compared to fire or grass types. Especially since Embor's the fighting type, it made Skyla a lot harder. But yeah, this is really nice to see. And all of them have had a lot of resets too. Well, I mean, not Samurott only had 11 compared to Embor's 22 and Superior's 26, but still, plenty of resets. So now, next up is the late game. We're going to be going over all the Team Plasma plot, all the major fights in it. There's pretty much only 2 or 3 major fights. There's the multi-battle you do with Hugh against Zinzolin and a Team Plasma Grunt. There's Colress, and then Getsus, and we're basically going to cover everything up until the Pokemon League. This is what I like to call Chapter 4, the late game. Since we've already started with all 3, why don't we proceed with Superior again? The Team Plasma stuff is split up into 2 parts. Well, 3 parts kinda. You have to go to Route 22 right here, get the Colress machine from Colress. There's a rare candy you can get on this route too, but there's a lot of rare candies everywhere. I might not go over every single one. And then with the Colress machine, I can go south from Hulamau City, and then enter the Seaside Cave, and then I can get another rare candy down here. And then I can use the Colress machine to get the Crustal to move, which gives me access to this area and to the first part of the Frygate. Another thing about Black 2 and White 2 that's different from each other is that the Team Plasma stuff you do in the late game is a different order. During the first part of the Frygate, in Black version 2, you have to step on teleporters to activate switches to get rid of an electric fence, while the second part, you have to get hints from grunts about what the password is, get the plasma key, and then you can type in a password. In White 2, it's reversed. The first part is you have to get a password. The second part, you step on teleporters. But here's an easy thing about the password system. It can only be one of 5 things. 2202, 7707, 9909, Reshiram, Zekrom with a capital. That's pretty much all it can be, so I pretty much just fight the one grunt that has the key, and then I just guess passwords. Let's see what the password is for Superior. And it looks like the password today is Reshiram. Alright, so now we are going to do the first of 3 major battles. We're going to do the multi-battle with Zinzolin and a Team Plasma Grunt. This is the hardest fight you have to do with Zinzolin pretty much, so I'm going to talk about this fight. They both lead off with Cryogonal and Liepard, and I send out Superior and my rival sends out Embor. My Superior is already level 67 just because of the Lucky Egg we're holding. So the whole key to this fight is pretty much just sweep with return and just let Embor do what it wants. The advantage of always replacing the grass starter, Emboar is really good at the Team Plasma section, with all the dark types, the normal types, and the ice types. Fire and fighting just does a great job here. So this is really nice for the rival to have. Especially this guy's Scoliopeed is weak to fire moves. Or I guess a rock type head smash from the Emboar. So then after that, the Shadow Triad kicks us off the Fragate, so now it heads on over to the Giant Chasm. When I enter the Giant Chasm, as you can see on my moveset, I now have rest on my moveset in the place of Leaf Storm. My only attacking moves are Giga Drain and Return, so you can kinda see just how limited my moveset is. And then we can go up here and enter the Fragate a second time. We now have to go into the lower areas, step on teleporters, step on these switches to disable the electric fence, fight Zinzolin again, but he's easy so we're not going to talk about him, and then we can do the 2 remaining major fights in the split, starting with Colress. Colress starts off with a level 54 Magneton holding an Eviolite. Since it can still evolve, its defensive stats get a 50% boost. So I just go for some growths while it just attacks me. I have rest to heal paralysis anyway, so I take this chance to just set up as much as I need to. Although I really should have equipped a Chesto Berry for this fight. I really need to look up where all the berry locations are and just write them down. Because the only way to get berries in this game, aside from Funfest missions which are banned, I would have to fight Pokemon Rangers to get them. And then once I finally get to +6, now we are on the sweep. Although the Magneton takes a while to knock out because it keeps trying to paralyze me with Thunder Wave, I don't want to proceed into the rest of this run paralyzed. And then eventually, when I wake up, I can knock it out with Return. Next up is the Magnezone, which can also paralyze me, so I have to do the same thing to it too. Giga Drain leaves it on 1 HP because of Sturdy, I get hit with Thunder Wave, and now since Colress is at a full restores, as soon as I wake up, I can just use Return to just get rid of it. But luckily during that time, it just uses Explosion to blow itself up, and I'm still asleep for the Klinklang. It's floating with an air balloon, but that doesn't matter. I wake up, use Giga Drain for the one-shot, and now I'm almost at full health again. Next up is the Metang. Can you imagine if this was already a Metagross? Oh my god. Giga Drain knocks it out in one hit, I get to level 77. Next up is the Behem. I go for Return, clearly leaving it with no HP to spare, and then Colress is defeated. Rest is actually kind of a decent move for this guy. I'll need to remember that for the future when I do second runs. So now I can enter Ghetsis' office. He heads on out to the Giant Chasm. I have to fight some Shadow Triad members, and then I can head into the cavern. Kyurem tries to kill me, and then N and his Reshiram save the day, and then some cutscenes and stuff like that. So now I have to take out White Kyurem. The White Kyurem is level 55. It has the ability Turbo Blaze. This ability basically acts like Mold Breaker. It prevents other abilities from working. This is also the ability of Reshiram. And then it uses an Ice Burn, doing massive damage, leaving it 13 HP. And then I'm able to knock out the White Kyurem and get to level 78, just in time for the Ghetsis fight coming up. It's fine that I'm at low HP because N always heals up my team before Ghetsis challenges me. He leads off with Cofagrigus. I'm fine with not having a Pecha Berry for this fight because I have Rest, which can easily get rid of it. So I just take my time, just like Colress, to just set up as much as I need, and then when I feel like the time is right, I can use Rest. And then with that defeated, I can just sweep the whole rest of his team with Return or Giga Drain. Also, this Hydreigon here is the only Pokemon in Gen 5 with 0 Friendship and Frustration. In the game's code, every single trainer Pokemon has maxed out Friendship by default. While in Gen 4, it's just the friendship of whatever the Pokemon normally is. Like, a Baneri will be at 0, a random starter might be at 70, stuff like that. And then Ghetsis is defeated. So now I can go through Route 23, get some extra rare candies, talk to N to get Waterfall, go through the Badge Gate, and then I can enter Victory Road. I'm not really going to talk about the trainers in here or rare candies and stuff too much. Serperior just has a tough time with a bunch of these trainers, especially the ones with flying or ghost types, because my only attacking moves are Return and Giga Drain. It's just all I have to work with. I mean, maybe it might have been worth it getting the TM for Aerial Ace, but I'll have plenty of time to figure that out for the second time I play this. Once I make it to the top of Victory Road, I now have to take on my rival for the last time. This is Rival 4. Usually Rival 5 is the last rival. I mean, technically this is Rival 5 if you count the PWT rival fight, but I really don't count that as a rival fight just because of the fact, we're in a tournament. He leads off with his level 59 Unpheasant, and I'm level 81, just from lucky egg grinding. I can use Return to defeat his Unpheasant. I level up to level 82. Next up is the Bouffalant. I go for Return, knocking it out in one single blow. And then next up is his Embor. Hopefully this is a one-shot, because if it's not, then it's going to do major damage. Luckily, I break out of Confusion, and I am able to completely destroy it in one hit, and the Simipour is nothing to worry about. And then after that, Hugh gives the TM for Thunderbolt, which none of our contenders can learn, so we're not even going to worry about that. And then Serperior enters the Pokemon League area with a split time of 3 hours, 59 minutes, and 31 seconds. Alright, when we go over Embor and Samurott, I'll probably skip the Hugh battle with Zinzolin and the Plasma Grunt, just because he's really not that hard most of the time, but I still consider it a major fight. So I think with Embor, why don't we skip ahead straight to Colress. Embor has a really great solution for the Magneton and the Magnezone with Sturdy. Arm Thrust does super effective damage, and it's a multi-strike move. If I can get lucky, then I could end up defeating it in one hit, but for some reason, the Magneton uses Volt Switch instead of Thunder Wave. That really surprised me. I don't know what makes the AI think to go for a switching move instead of Thunder Wave, but hey, I'll take it. And then the Magnezone uses Thunder Wave, eats up my Cherry Berry, so now next time the Magneton comes out, I can one-shot it with Flamethrower since it's not at full health. But besides those two, the rest of the fight goes very easy, although I am at pretty low health. I defeat White Kyurem pretty easily. Fun fact, Black Kyurem and White Kyurem, even though they fuse with Reshiram and Zekrom, it's still Dragon Ice. Both of them are Dragon Ice types, so they're neutral to fire moves. They are super effective to Arm Thrust though. So now, skipping straight ahead to the Ghetsis fight. I start off by using a Flamethrower, it lives and it gets burned. I don't have a Pecha Berry equipped for this fight. It still says on my overlay I have Cherry Berry. I just forgot to take it off during the Colress fight. I try my best to remember these things, but it's going to be really nice when Game Hook is incorporated into these games. One of my main goals for the new year, before I start doing second playthroughs, I want to get some Game Hook aspects working. I mean, even though Game Hook can now read the RAM of the DS game memory, I would have to switch on over to BizHawk Emulator, which I have downloaded and tested, and it does work great. Mappers would have to be made for these games. I will help out in making the mappers. The only DS game so far that has a mapper made is Platinum, but I know the other ones can be made too. Anyway, on the next attempt of Ghetsis, since I lost at this fight while I was explaining that, I come back into this fight with a Pecha Berry, I use a free workup, and then I use another workup by mistake, which I really should not have done. That was a terrible idea. So now I am just going to get my butt kicked. On the third try though, I don't do something that's stupid, and I'm actually able to defeat Ghetsis. Although I want to mention, when I'm going through Route 23, I fight an Ace Trainer. He has an Emolga, but the Emolga's not the hard part. The hard part is the Jellicent right afterwards. I go for Flamethrower since it's my best move against it. It goes for Rain Dance, which doubles the damage of its water moves and halves my fire ones. So I go for Workup. It hits me with Hydro Pump, leaving me at 51 HP. I go for Flamethrower, and then it hits me with Brine, and I end up having to black out. So I'm all the way back at Hulamau City, so now I have to go through that route again. That sucks. That was an optional trainer too. I get a reset or two on some of the veteran trainers in Victory Road, and then I can defeat Hugh quite easily, and then Embor enters the Pokemon League area with a split time of 3 hours, 56 minutes, and 42 seconds. Alright, let's see how Samurott does at the Colress fight. Going into the Colress fight, I have a moveset overhaul. I have Rest and Dig on my moveset. Here's what I'm going to do. On the first Magneton, I go for a Dig, it misses Thunder Wave, and of course Sturdy lets it live on 1 HP, so now I'm paralyzed. The Cherry Berry eats it up. So now, during the heal, I can set up a free Swords Dance. So then I just go for Surf since it healed. It lives in low health. That's fine though, because I have Rest, which is going to heal my paralysis. The Magneton uses Volt Switch to switch into Magnezone, and then Surf leaves it in red health, which is good because it breaks its Sturdy. It goes for Discharge, leaving me at 6 HP left, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to set up a Rest in time due to the cut in my speed stat. I go for it anyway. The Kling goes for Thunderbolt, and yeah, that's a reset. On the next attempt, I'm able to successfully use Rest on the Kling, and as long as I keep my HP high, I can eventually knock out his whole team with a combination of Surf and Dig. For the Getsus fight, I have a Pecha Berry equipped and I have Return taught in the place of Rest because I only needed Rest for the Colress fight. So I set up a Swords Dance on the Cofagrigus for free, and then I eventually knock it out. Next up is his Electros. It has Levitate, and since it's an electric type, it basically has no weaknesses. So I just use another Swords Dance. Its acrobatics isn't really doing that much, and since Getsus has to heal, I could have gone for another Swords Dance, but I just go for Return instead. Oh well. Now next up is the Seismitoad. I go for 1 Return, which knocks it out, and the whole rest of his team is pretty easy too, so let's just skip over him. Samurott has an easy time through Victory Road, and Samurott enters the Pokemon League with a split time of 3 hours, 13 minutes, and 49 seconds. So now, Samurott has lengthened its lead even further. It only had 1 reset during the entire Team Plasma section, and it was just on Colress, while the other 2 have had plenty of resets. And it's pretty much clear that Samurott is going to be the winner of this race, but second place is still up in the air because Serperior is only behind by 3 minutes. But now we have the whole Elite Four to go through. You can fight them in any order you want, so I'm going to head on over to Serperior, have it go through its 4 Elite Four members, then do the same thing for Emboar and Samurott, and then all 3 of them will discuss the champion, and then we can talk about the splits. So now it is time to take on the final 5 trainers. Let's do this shit. The first Elite Four member I take on with Serperior is Chantal, the Ghost-type Specialist. My moveset is Rest, Growth, Giga Drain, and Return. The main plan is just to try and set up some growths on the Cofagrigus, but unlike Getsus's Cofagrigus, it has Will-O-Wisp instead, but since I have Rest, I can easily just get rid of any status condition. So slowly but surely, I can keep my health high, raise my attack and special attack, and then just sweep with either Return or Giga Drain. I got a reset on my first fight with her just cause I couldn't wake up in time for the Cofagrigus to kill me. I am able to win on the second attempt though, although I did have to use a lot of Rest because some of her Pokemon have Will-O-Wisp. The second Elite Four member I take on is the Psychic type user Caitlyn. I generally view her as the easiest Elite Four member, followed by Grimsley, then Chantal, then Marshall, but let's see how this goes. On the Musharna, I just try my best to set up, and then I can use Rest, but the main problem with Rest is that the Musharna does have Dream Eater, so I have to make sure not to use Rest too much, and then once I set up enough, I can defeat the Musharna with Giga Drain. Then next up is the Sigilyph. Also, I now have leftovers, but like before, I have a problem with remembering to update my overlay. And then the Sigilyph goes down, the Reuniclus goes down, then next up is the Metagross. This is not Caitlyn's extra Pokemon from Challenge Mode, just because it's not from Unova. Her extra Pokemon is actually a Gothitelle, because in normal Black 2 and White 2, from Black and White 1 she replaced her Gothitelle with Metagross, but in Challenge Mode she gets it back. During the normal run through of Black 2 and White 2 in the Elite Four, where they only have 4 Pokemon, Caitlyn's the only one to have a non-Unova Pokemon, and that's Metagross. The third Elite Four member I take on is Marshall. No reason at all, I just thought Grimsley might have been a little bit harder, but let's see if I'm right. The main reason Marshall can be hard is because his Sock has Sturdy, and in this game it has Rock Slide. On the throw though, just like with the others, I try my best to set up as much as I can, and I can use Rest to heal up if I need to. Then on the Mienshao, it outspeeds and goes for Bounce. Uh-oh. And then it hits me, I get paralyzed, which is awful, and then I knock out the Mienshao. Then next up is the Conkeldurr. On this thing, it goes for Bulk Up while I go for Rest, and then the Conkeldurr gets burned with the Flame Orb because all of the Elite Four in Challenge Mode have competitive held items, and the Conkeldurr has the Guts ability, which boosts its attack by 50% under a status condition, and it ignores the attack drop from Burn too, so that is really bad. Luckily though, on the next attempt, I get luckier and I'm able to move on to the final Elite Four member, the Dark type user, Grimsley. He leads off with a Liepard. It always goes for a turn 1 normal gem boosted Fake Out for not really that much damage. But then again, the Liepard is a really good opportunity to set up growths, so then once I'm fully set up, I can completely sweep his team. So now at this point, I can go take on the champion, but we have to see how the others do at the Elite Four. The first Elite Four member I take on is the Dark type Elite Four member Grimsley. I don't take on Chantal first because of her Jellicent. I just spam some workups on the Liepard, and then just sweep the rest of his team with Arm Thrust or Flamethrower, mostly just Arm Thrust. The next Elite Four member I take on is Caitlyn. I use a bunch of rare candies before this fight just to boost my level a little bit to level 83. I go for a workup, and then the Musharna puts me to sleep and hits me with a super effective Dream Eater. Come on, I better wake up. I live at 24 HP. Can I wake up? Come on, come on. Yes, I do. In Generation 5 and beyond, sleep only lasts for a maximum of 3 turns. They really nerfed sleep in newer gens. In Gen 1, it was 1 to 7 turns, plus if you wake up, you can't attack. Gen 2 is 1 to 6, plus you can attack the turn you wake up. Gen 3 is 1 to 5, Gen 4 is 1 to 4, Gen 5 and beyond is 1 to 3. Pokemon Stadium's actually 1 to 3, surprisingly. But anyway, during that whole time I talked about that, I pretty much just swept all of Caitlyn's team in red health, so yeah. The third Elite Four member I take on is Marshall. I take out his throw, the next up is his Conkeldurr. I go for a workup, it goes for bulk up, and then Flame Orb activates, but that's fine, I'm using a special move, so one Flamethrower knocks it out in one single hit. The Lucario is weak to fire, and then the Mienshao hits me with Bounce. Luckily it doesn't paralyze, so then I can take out the Mienshao, and finally is the Sock. This thing has Sturdy, so it will survive and get a hit on me, but all it does is just go for Brick Break, not doing that much, so eventually I am able to knock him out. Last of all, I now have to take on Chantal. I forget to update my overlay again, but I have Return for this fight replaced with Rock Slide, because once I build up my attack stat, my best move for it's going to be Rock Slide. I can't hit it with Return or Arm Thrust, and it resists Flamethrower, so why would I use that move? Also, I want to mention the Jellicent does have an awful ability called Cursed Body. Basically, if any move hits it, not even a contact move, just any move, it has a 1 in 3 chance of disabling that move. So if I hit it with a Rock Slide and it lives, it could theoretically Curse Body disable Rock Slide, which could be really bad. But anyway, that's the Elite Four for Emboar. Now we've got Samurott. The first Elite Four member I take on is Chantal. I have a much better setup move than the other two. While Emboar uses Workup and Serperior uses Growth, which are copies of each other, Samurott's got the much better Swords Dance. So on Chantal, I can just set up Swords Dance and then just sweep. For this fight though, I have Surf and Ice Beam. I can't use Return because this is a Ghost type place, so I don't even bother with Swords Dance for this fight. I do though use Swords Dance for the Grimsley fight and just completely sweep his whole team. Next up, I fight the Elite Four member Caitlyn. I also just realized while recording this voiceover, I accidentally paused the recording at Caitlyn, and now I see myself at the Iris fight. So I completely skipped over Caitlyn and Marshall, so now the time hasn't passed at all, and I am moving ahead straight to Iris. I think to make up for that, I'm going to add like 4 minutes to this run. Okay, let's just see how Iris goes then. We'll just start with Samurott while we're here. So yeah, that was awkward. Anyway, she leads off with her level 61 Hydreigon. It holds a Wise Glasses, so its special moves get a 10% boost. It has moves like Fire Blast and Focus Blast and Surf, so I don't want this thing staying out in battle, so I use one Ice Beam to take it out. Alright, so far so good. I've got the leftovers for this fight. Next up is the Lapras. I would rather set up on this thing. It has the very inaccurate Sing. It does have Thunder too, so I only set up to +2 with Swords Dance, and that is enough to one-shot the Lapras. Next up is the Druddigon. I go for Return. Luckily this thing has Sheer Force instead of Rough Skin. I level up to level 79. Then on the Aggron, I misclick and go for Return. It uses Automize, which raises its speed, and it becomes Nimble. Don't really know what that means, but oh well, Surf does the one-shot. Alright, next up is the Haxorus. This thing is holding a Focus Sash in Challenge Mode. Even with Mold Breaker, this thing will survive and always get a hit on you. All it does is set up a pathetic Dragon Dance though. Once Iris heals up the Haxorus to full, I defeat it with Return, and then her last Pokemon is the Archeops. This thing is going to be a very easy one-shot with Surf. Ice Beam would have worked too, but Surf is just what I used, and then I can defeat Archeops, and Samurott clocks in with an adjusted time of 3 hours, 24 minutes, and 6 seconds, with 13 resets at level 79, and a game time at the Hall of Fame of 5 hours and 32 minutes. You can really see how bad the FPS drop is this, because my real time is 3:24, yet my game time is 5:30 something. Yeah, that is clearly bad, but the new PC should hopefully fix all that. Alright, let's see how Emboar does now. For this fight, the only change I made to my moveset is I now have the move for Attract, which I taught in the place of Rock Slide. Because the thing is, I need someone to set up on, so I use Attract on the High Dragon to try and survive as long as possible. And then with my setup from Workup, I am able to just sweep the whole rest of her team, leftovers slowly heal me up, for her Haxorus especially, and then I level up to level 85. And then I do take some damage from the Druddigan, but luckily I am able to take it out. And then finally is the Archeops. I go for Rock Slide, it doesn't miss, and then Embor clocks in with a split time of 4 hours, 9 minutes, and 19 seconds, with 29 resets at level 85, with a game time at the Hall of Fame of 6 hours and 21 minutes. Now finally, we have Superior. My moveset going into this fight, I forget to update the overlay again like an idiot. I have Attract taught in the place of Rest, so now I can use Attract on the High Dragon, try my best to set up some growths while it successfully and unsuccessfully tries to hit me with Fire Blast. And then once I'm fully set up, the rest of her team is pretty much a joke. And then I defeat her Archeops at full HP thanks to In-Kind with leftovers and Giga Drain. And then Superior clocks in with a last place finish of 4 hours, 14 minutes, and 25 seconds, with 29 resets at level 85. That is the same level and amount of resets as Embor. That is surprising. And a game time at the Hall of Fame of 6 hours and 44 minutes. Man, we definitely have a clear winner. With all of the races that I've uploaded to the channel of the starters, most of the time, the water starter ends up winning. Slight spoiler alert, Blastoise won the yellow version race. In Heart Gold Soul Silver, Meganium won, so I guess that one wasn't a water type. In Sapphire version, Swampert won, and now in this game, Samurott has won. Oh yeah, with the Sinnoh starters, the winner ended up being Empoleon. So what are we at? 4 water types and 1 grass type, so the fire type really didn't stand a chance. Although in the yellow run, Charizard was like less than a minute behind, so when I eventually do a second playthrough with them, Charizard might get a win. We'll see. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed the Speedrunner 028 December Mania. This has been a very great year for the channel, very great month for the channel. I've reached a lot of new records with like my Versus videos getting a great number of views. My streams had record number of live viewers. One of my streams as of recording this had a max live viewership of 18 people. I am very appreciative of all of you. Anyway, even though this is it for the rest of 2023, 2024 is going to have a lot in stock. The first thing though that's going to come out though, before any edited video, I am going to get finished the Pokemon Yellow Randomizer Community Race. Thank you all for sticking around this whole month. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more for the new year. And be sure to follow me or support me on Patreon or YouTube memberships. Links are down below. I'm going to set a goal for the new year for subscriber growth for me personally. I want to try and see if we can get 5,000 subs by the end of 2024. That is a very hard goal for me to imagine, but I'm sure if I devote myself to consistent content, I'm sure I can do it. So let's see how close we can get to that goal. I thank you all for sticking around. I will see you all in the new year.